Welcome to Block 5 Notes and Practice. So I put the notes and the practice together because I wanted to give you some hints on how to do each one of these problems. So it might be helpful to watch problem A as I help you do it and then finish doing the table in your notes. And then pausing the video once you get that done, moving on to B, taking the notes, the hints from that one, and then finishing it off, and so on for the others. So for this one, remember, we're always trying to identify first, before we do anything, the total possible outcomes. So I will be looking for this in your practice if you wrote this down. So looking at this, I have this treasure island. And it's this treasure chest on this treasure island, and we're trying to find it to see where possibly in which location on the island is that chest of gold. So it's sectioned off, as you can see. So what is the probability of me finding it in a particular section? So as you can see here, this little one right here is the skull zone. This red one is the king's pit. This one right here that's green, that's called Willow Glen. And this very little small one up here that looks like kind of gold color is Gold Beach. So you kind of get the idea. But when you count all of these, which I have done, you have a total of 100 little squares. So my total possible outcomes are 100 outcomes. So make sure you draw this table because you'll be filling it out. So the total should be equal to 100, correct? So we'll see, and it should also be equal to 100%. Oh, so now we're dealing with percents, which you will remember is only actually dividing and multiplying by 100. So let's look at the skull zone. If I were to begin to count these, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we counted 6. And I have to remember that it's a fraction, so I have to put 100 there. And the probability of finding it in the skull zone is 6 out of 100. Now, if I bring up my calculator, remember that fractions are just division. So I can do 6 divided by 100, and that gives me 0.06. And remember, percent's always out of 100, so then we have to multiply this by 100 to get the actual percentage, which is 6. So we are going to put 6% here. Now let's do the king's pit. Now if I go to the king's pit, I'm going to count the squares, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 4 out of 100. And then I need to do the percentage. So let me bring my calculator back up. And I need to clear it. So 4 divided by 100, just like it shows there, is 0.04. And remember, percent's always out of 100, so we got to multiply by 100. And that equals 4%. So now you need to continue and finish the rest. So go ahead and pause the video and continue on. Welcome to B. Now this one is going to take a lot of critical reading. So on a school bus, there are 10 6th graders, 4 7th graders, and there are only 6 8th graders. Now remember, what do we always do first? Total possible outcomes. So we are going to count the total possible outcomes. So I'm going to do 10 plus 4 plus 6. And that is going to give me 20. So I can already set up my fraction and do 20. But I got to read critically because this first one says, how many 7th graders? And if I look here, I have 4 7th graders. But then here it says not 7th graders. So how many are not 7th graders? So if this is 7th graders, we can cross it off. How many are not 7th graders? Well, that's 10 plus 6. So 16 are not 7th graders. So that's how you would handle that. Oh, and I guess I accidentally just did it all for you. So that was just, I guess, an example. You will have one on the quiz that's talking about marbles that's similar to that one. Okay, C. I want you to take a moment and I want you to copy this table down and these numbers. So you can do this one. The only thing I want you to understand that some people may not know, that when you count numbers like tally marks, which is what these are, this is a tally mark. Let me use a brighter color. This is a tally mark. When you see them like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's 4, but if you go like this, that means that's 5 of them. So just as an example, this is just 4, but when you cross it, that's a section of 5. So when I go here and count this one, that's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, and that's how you get 30. Now that you know what that means, because you'll have one on the final test that's similar to the tally marks, on the quiz on Friday, I don't want you to make a mistake. Now you can solve the rest. And for letter D, it's asking, just make sure you're critically reading, what is the probability of not choosing blue? Thank you and good luck.